right, guys, thank you so much. I have an opportunity to share with you one of the most exciting topics of the day. If by the time we're done, you're still hungry and want to get out and get something to eat, that's okay. But those that want to stick around and want more, please stick around. I'd be more than happy to spend more time with you. Okay? Is that fair?
Fair.
Excellent. So this is the topic. All right, paperwork. Look at those smiles. I love it. Obviously, you're going to be doing some paperwork for us. It's not an exciting subject. Now, why is that? We got all the excitement, all the fun. The product is great. Get out there, talk to your clients or prospects. Tell them about the product. They're excited. Handle objections. Now what?
Paperwork.
Oh, yeah, paperwork. Okay, so let's talk about paperwork. Now, I'm going to go through something that, from my experience in sales and in marketing, that could actually keep you from making money. And guess what? There's no objection handling technique that you can use that will get you through that without paperwork and doing it right. So, I'm going to ask you to please focus on what we're going to share with you. And we've also created some systems to make this aspect of the job easier for you. So there is hope and there is an opportunity to actually make this part of the fun part of your job. Okay? In the packets, let me go through it so you know what is there. You should have a copy of the presentation that I gave earlier, the product presentation. It's there for you to go through it, make notes, practice it. Now, when you are actually starting within your teams, one of the things you will be asked to do by your team lead is to present to them and possibly to other members of the group. Why is that? Practice, practice, practice. Remember, we started the morning by saying you have to understand your product. And the product for this moment revolves around the opportunity that we've been talking about, the in-house funding. Go through it, get comfortable with it. You have questions, jot them down. We want you to know and be ready to, again, not only deliver it, but handle any objections that may come up. Secondly, you have on the other side a group of documents that serve a very simple and unique purpose. I'm going to go through some of those. I'm going to start out with the agent steps to funding. Now, the funding part is the good part, right? Now, what I'll tell you is if you follow this, the process can actually be streamlined. You will actually be able to close your client within 7 days. Now, what's the downside of not listening or adhering to what I'm going to be sharing with you today? What's the worst thing that could happen? Anybody?
No pay. You don't get paid.
You don't get paid. What else?
Skip a step.
Skip a step?
Skip a step. Slow down the process.
Okay, it slows down the process. Who gets hurt when that happens? The customer. Who else?
Everyone does.
Everyone. You guys get hurt, the team leads get hurt, we get affected by it, Caesar won't come back, and it basically everybody that's involved, all right? So what that means to me is that if we're going to put ourselves in a position to go through the process, make the funding happen and happen in a timely manner, that we need to be tight on what we do. And so it starts with communication. It's the big C word. If you take the information that's created for you, you will in fact have a positive experience with something that isn't fun. Now, I'll share experiences with you. I've created processes for the mortgage business at Bank of America with what we are referring to as the agency model within Farmers. The trick to all of this has been communication. For those of you that have been in the real estate field, for example, tell me if this sounds familiar. You're excited that you just got an opportunity to list the home. You're like, oh, wow, I got this. Look at the upside of this thing. I'm going to make a lot of money, right? You can't wait to cash that in because you got that beautiful car waiting for you. But there's only one problem. You got to go through the process of selling the property. Okay, you got a buyer. Buyer's interested in the property. What's going to keep you now from getting the money that you are expecting as part of the commission?
Extensive paperwork.
Paperwork again. It's that P word. The point is, any job that pays any, well, in this case, decently requires you to go through a process. And the point is, if it was all up to you and just dependent on your ability and what you brought to the table, you could control that. But unfortunately, there's other people called banks, financial institutions, whatever the term may be, customers and other third-party people, that if they're not aligned with you, what happens? It kicks back. And so what we're going to do is basically go through some information that we've created that would allow us to share that obligation with the customer. If the customer understands that there's something in it for them, and just like I'm sharing with you, you want to get paid, you got to do this, guess what? Don't you think that the merchant would also be excited to start saving and start making more money? So let's establish that partnership up front. Now, how do we do that? In the packet, as a guide for each one of you, there's a document referred to as the agent steps to funding. We try to break the processes down in a manner that will make it easier for you to understand what is happening, but it's something you can also relate to your client. The first step is credit approval. That's basically a process that's in place to see if the merchant who's expressed an interest can qualify for our program. That's all. Meaning, if the business is not solvent, or if it's one of those businesses that is not on our accepted list, what's going to happen? It's not going to be accepted, correct? So let's go through it. You'll see that for that purpose, we're going to create then these documents that we're going to help them get through that credit process. We have the following two documents. You'll see them in your packet. One of them is referred to as the Preferred Merchant Document Checklist. Do you see that? Okay. What this is in place for is to help you communicate to the client up front as to what's going to be required of them for them to be able to take advantage of our program. No surprises, right? And by the way, Mr. Client, if you're not able to get this thing done, we're not going to be able to get this thing funded or approved. So work with this list. We've laid out all the documents that we know are going to be required. Allow the owner or the financial manager to take that and share that with the person that's actually going to be doing the work. Do you follow what I'm saying? Sometimes we have the conversations with the finance manager, with the owner. They're excited. They understand the significance of having this program and what the impact to their bottom line is, correct? But then the detail portion of it goes where? To an assistant in the office. And it goes like this. Can you get them the information they want? And by the way, when you're done, please, let me know so we can start using this. And you're like, I'm excited. Great, let's go. All right, not a problem. And whoever you relay the information, if they're focusing on what you're saying, they might do a diligent job of capturing everything and making note of it and actually following through. Correct? I mean, there are some good people like that out there. But when they're busy juggling other things and that information is relayed, what's going to happen more likely? They forgot. Or they'll get you some of the documents. What's that doing to your overall process? It is slowing it down. So the point is, this is a shared effort. Here's a document to guide them through what is required. They can pass that on to their assistant in the office. They get started on that. Secondly, we need this document, which is the application, to be completed. This is, again, information about the owner or owners of the business, information about the business. There's nothing difficult about that. In fact, most of this information you could actually probably pull from your experience with that client or online, etc. Help them make it easier. But we need their signature. We also need them to include references. Individuals that from the business perspective can be a good reference for them. Again, the information is here. Those forms are left behind. That's what's required of your merchant. Now, in addition to understanding the steps and being able to communicate them, when you go back to collect the documents, oh, by the way, what if you had this expectation? Mr. Client, if Mary's the person that's going to be doing this, when Mary has all the documents gathered, when they've taken that form and checked off that they have it, ask her to give me a call. I will personally come running over here and get them so we can get this rushed through the process. Is that fair? What's he going to say? Sure, not a problem. Excellent. Super. All right. So a day goes by, 2 days go by. Hey, Mary, how are you? I'm available today. Do you have the information? Oh, yeah, I do. All right. You did great. I'll be right over. But Mary, you didn't get them all. Oh, yeah, but we're working on it. Oh, wait a minute. But so what happens then? Frustrating, isn't it? How does that experience look for you? You made the time, you showed up, but they didn't. What are you going to tell the processor? She's not your boss. She's not your employee. You can't, right? You just say, well, thank you for trying. Keep on it. Now the manager, the owner comes back and says, did you get that approved? Is it done yet? And you're saying, no, not yet. Who's looking bad? It's reflecting on us. So my point is, you left the documents, you left the guide. They go through it, they're telling you you've got it. What should be your first question? Is it complete? Whoa, that's simple. Now, how can you verify that they've done it, that it is complete?
Read off the checklist, do them line by line.
You got the checklist information that is okay, so you got these documents. Oh, by the way, why don't you scan and send me a copy of the checklist with the list of documents that you've already collected? Wouldn't it highlight the ones that they didn't? Saved you the trip, 5-minute conversation. So tools, makes your job a little bit easier. When you have the information, now you've got to go and review it. So the document called Preferred Merchant Application Checklist, this is for you. This is your guide. Let me tell you what we're trying to address with this. Even if you collected documents, some of you have probably had this experience. You believe you got the bank statements, you got I'll say the business license, you got a copy of the individual's driver's license, but now what? You take a look at it, what happens? You send it to processing or underwriting, and they come back and say, it's not complete. You say, why? It's all there. They told me. And you say, well, did you take a look at that picture? Oh my gosh. I think it's, wow. All right, I'll get you a new one. Okay. Did you look at the license? Did you check the expiration date of the license? No. What does it say? It was expired 3 months ago. Oh, okay. You see what I'm saying? Any one of those things can delay things. So what we've done is, again, created the guide. So as you heard Ronnie mention, go through it. Ask them the information. There's some key tidbits next to this to say, ask these points, verify. You get that process then completed, you acknowledge that you've received it, now you can actually take it into our processing center. With that in place, we'll have compliance go through that and ensure that everything is correct and in place. We then become your advocate to get it to our corporate location and get it through underwriting. Only with that can we assure a quick 48-hour turnaround of the first step, which is what part? What was the first step called? The credit approval, right? So that means we're still not done yet. That only says, okay, we can play. So now what happens with that is the customer has to go through this process of getting that feedback from our company saying, all right, your credit is good. We're going to need now more information. That's going to allow us to go through and get some preliminary, we call them conditions, addressed, complete some forms that they will send that are already pre-populated. But the point is, there's still more steps to go through. Once that information is completed, then it goes back again, and the underwriting departments that are then next involved, they go ahead and go through that and push it through. Now, the conditional approval is being referred to requires now the approval to be received from the other two participants in this transaction. So it started out with getting Platinum One acknowledging this is a business that we can do business with. This is a client that looks like they're going to be able, that they've passed credit. That's all. And now it's got to go to the equipment provider, the company that's actually going to be leasing the equipment, and it's got to go to the company that's going to be moving the funds. Two different bodies. So that extra step is not that we're trying to delay things. It's not that we're trying to make it difficult. It's that we're trying to make sure that before it goes to those individuals, we have everything that they're going to need. Once they have it, they can now turn it down quickly, and we should be on a way to getting their approval within 5 business days. Okay? So when the response to initial credit approval is received, you as an agent will be notified. What that does is raise the flag and says, guys, we've gotten over the first hurdle. Let's get this thing moving. Let's get in front of your client, get him to complete that next step, and let's get it through, because we've gone through the first major step. The second one lays out the terms and what the merchant can be eligible for. They have to acknowledge that that's something that they're comfortable with. It's got to go back to get processed, but it's moving us closer to the funding step. Okay? Once that approval has taken place, then we get an acknowledgement as such. Next thing you know is they're going to end up shipping a kit, and they're going to ship the equipment within that kit. What it is a box. That box has I mentioned the device, the reader. Both of those will come to in our case, they're going to be coming to our processing center. We will take it, we will test it to make sure that it hasn't been dropped, there's no problem with it, and that it's working. You or our installation rep will help you with ensuring that that can now be taken to the client, to the merchant, and getting it installed. Now, we need everybody to learn this and be able to do it. And if you're expected to do that, when you get to that point that you're comfortable and want to have one of our resources help you with that for a fee, they'll do that. Meaning our center will provide that service for you, and that's okay. It saves you time, it assures that it gets done properly, and now gets you to closure. Closure being that the minute that is now being installed, that the merchant has been educated on the process, they sign off on it, they've had a confirmation of installation with the equipment vendor, they will now activate the lease. With that, you will get a receipt that acknowledges that, and now you're good to go. With that document, which you'll receive, you bring it to the processing center. And what that does is basically says, I'm on the board, I did it. The deal is in place, customers trained, they're comfortable, they understand the expectations, they're ready to go. With that, we can now, again, be your advocate, push with Platinum One and the appropriate people if we need to deal with the other providers to ensure that that deal gets funded. Does that sound like it's hard? Sounds like a lot of work? Okay. The answer should be, it's not if you do it right the first time, right? You don't want to be in a situation where every piece of document that is required is, piecemeal to you. For one thing, if you live in the Orange County or anywhere in Southern California, to drive to your customer to pick up a document that may even be post-dated already, it's irritating, it takes a lot of gas, a lot of money, but isn't that an investment that you could have been better off, maybe going to another potential merchant. So again, just be smart about it. So again, just to recap, we've created a process. The process has been now clearly identified. Go through the documents, understand it, learn it. When we have our CRM, our Customer Resource Manager tool, we're going to use that to help you keep track of the stage of the case. So if documents are still outstanding or you're waiting for a follow-up, please acknowledge that. The team leads will also get visibility to that. We'll have visibility to that. In fact, even Caesar will be able to see. Why? Because they're waiting to help you get that deal closed and funded. Because we alert them. Remember, I told you, said, we got this in the works. We're getting very close. Be alert. We need to turn this around for whoever the agent is. So they're going to come back and say, what's keeping it? It's been here now for 3 days. Why? So if something of that nature happens, this is a little bit of a lifeguard, if you may, a buoy that we're throwing out to you, saying if you have problems following up with a merchant to get a document that's required to move this along, yes, we're asking you to own it, but let us know. We can have somebody follow up on your behalf and get that process completed. That way, there is no excuse, all right? There is no excuse. So if it's important to you, own it. We're making it important enough to us that we're putting in the umbrella, the infrastructure to support you. Okay?